What's up, everyone? It's the OOTP GM. I want to welcome you all to the 13th episode of my Detroit Tigers GM Let's Play here on Out of the Park Baseball 18. So we're here at the beginning of the 2019 off season, and before I get into some of the major changes that are going to be happening with our team, I wanted to give you guys a quick update on what happened during the playoffs. So the New York Mets ended up winning. The New York Mets ended up winning the World Series 4-1 over the Houston Astros. They pretty much blew them out in all of the games that they won. So it was not a close series. What was really amazing, though, was the American League Championship Series. Houston Astros came back from a 3-0 deficit to win 4 straight games to make it to the World Series. And the two-time defending champion Dodgers were knocked out in 5 games by the Cubs. So no three-peat for the Dodgers this year. In terms of our team and how we did, we had some guys that finished the year really well and other guys that did not do so well. So in terms of pitching-wise, Fulmer had himself another really good year. Statistically, this is maybe his best year he's had with us. His lowest FIP ever of 3.31, his highest WAR ever of 5.9. His ERA and WHIP are a little bit higher than they've been in the past, but if you look at the more sabermetric numbers, he had maybe his best season ever. And then Jordan Zimmerman pitched a little bit better towards the end of the year, but still not a particularly good year. Spencer Turnbull was a guy who filled in for us at the end of the season because Liriano kept getting hurt, and he started off pretty good, but he kind of struggled down the stretch. Daniel Norris got hurt at the end of the season. His numbers were starting to come back down, but still kind of had an off year. And then we finally called up Beau Burrows. He made 3 starts at the end of the year. His first start was really bad. He allowed 7 earned runs, but then his next 2 starts were really good. 2 earned runs in 6 innings, and only 1 earned and 3 hits over 8 in his final start. So I think he's going to be in our starting rotation next year. And also Arturo had a pretty good year, 30 saves, 3.32 ERA. And then some of our other bullpen guys kind of struggled a little bit later. Robbie Ross had himself a pretty good year, 3.21 ERA, 95 innings. But Stumpf, who kind of got off to a really fast start, he struggled a little bit. He did pitch 110 innings out of the bullpen, though, so that's a lot of innings for a guy in the bullpen. And then Aaron Slegers, again, he kind of bounced between pitching in the rotation and then pitching out of the pen. Didn't have a particularly great year, 5.94 ERA, but we'll have to make a decision regarding him for the rotation, all that next year. In terms of our team, Max Pentecost's ratings shot through the roof. His defensive ratings shot way up, and he had himself a nice season. He became the full-time starter after we traded away Vasquez. Miguel Cabrera had a really good season. He won't win the MVP, but he had a really nice season at age 36, 318, 34 home runs, 106 ribbies. Cody Eaves really bounced back after struggling at the beginning of the year, not only with injuries, but just in general. And he bounced back to have a pretty decent year. Scope had a really nice year for us. WAR 3.3, OPS over 800. So he looks like he could potentially have been a bargain when we picked him up. Marte kind of struggled a little bit when he came over in that trade. 253 with us. He did slug better with us in the second half when he played with us, but he's probably going to go into the year as our right fielder next year. We'll have to see where things end up. Christian Stewart struggled down the stretch, but still had a much better year than he did last year. A nice bounce back year. Upton, another solid, if not a spectacular year, but solid. He did miss some time with injury. Jacoby Jones, again, nothing spectacular, but solid, for somebody in center field. So overall, we did end up winning 78 games, finished way back in the division, but 78 games is still a lot better than we were only projected for 63 wins at the beginning of the year. So I can't complain about how we ended up finishing the year. So a couple of big changes coming for our team. The first one that I wanted to show you guys is I did not retain Brad Ausmus. I let him walk, and it was a really hard decision because he'd had a pretty good run with the team, but ultimately it came down to I just didn't think that his vision for the team and my vision for the team were lining up. And while we did kind of overachieve in that first season, and you could argue we overachieved this year, we badly underachieved in the other year, a year ago. And so what I've decided to do is I am going to promote Ryan Sandberg to manager, which means we have a vacancy at bench coach. And I was looking over a few different guys that I was looking to bring in for this role, and there's a few different guys that I was tempted to look at, and ultimately I think I'm going to go with Bo Porter, who is a former manager. He was with the Houston Astros for a couple of years. The reason why I want to bring him in is his strategy and everything is somewhat similar to what Ryan Sandberg does, but his relationship numbers are really good. I mean, he's got a really good influence with a lot of players, and a really good relationship with most other players. His relationship with the pitchers isn't particularly good, which is gives me a little bit of pause. But I like the fact that he's good on both sides. The other individual that I was looking at, there was a couple of different people that I was looking at. And another person, he's down here. Alan Trammell was another one that I looked at. Here we go. He isn't quite as lengthy in terms of guys, but he doesn't have as bad of an influence with other players. The only problem with Trammell is a little bit older, and he doesn't quite have the same. He's a small ball manager style, so it doesn't quite line up the same way as what Sandberg does. So those were a couple of guys that I had looked at. There was one bench coach that I had looked at as well. I gotta find him here. Descarnina doesn't have a particularly good or high influence on a lot of guys, but decent relationship. Kind of the same thing with Porter in terms of doesn't have a great relationship with a lot of the pitchers, but the reason why I liked Porter is because he has a large number of players that he has a good relationship with. So that's why I was looking at Porter over some of the other players or some of the other individuals. So I'm going to offer him a contract to be our bench coach. And 2 years, $280,000 is fine. I'll submit that offer. And he can always be a guy that if Sandberg struggles, Porter can be a guy I'd be comfortable stepping in with. So we go here to some of the things that we need to handle. And one of the things that I wanted to show you guys almost immediately was the posted players from the Korean Baseball League. And there's this 26-year-old right fielder who I'm super tempted to offer a deal on. The problem, because his numbers are great. I mean, look at the year he had in 2018, 373. I mean, just really good player, but his posting fee is $25 million, and then we still have to offer him a contract on top of that, and I'm not sure if I want to pay that much money for a player at this point in our rebuild, because one of the things that I'm going to be looking to do this off season is I'm going to be trying to trade Upton and Zimmerman, try to get their money off of our books so we have money for different players moving forward. I mean, we're only saddled with Zimmerman for one more year, and Upton is still a decent player, but it's rough when you're tied down with $50 million tied to two players, and in this case next year we'd have over $70 million tied to just three players. So it kind of makes things a little bit difficult, but would like to try and do something with that if possible. But he's a guy I would be interested in, but like I said, the $25 million posting fee is just a little bit rich for me. And there was nobody of consequence out of the Japanese league. So if we get in here to our option years, and we're going to void both of these, both Romine struggled this year, and Liriano hasn't been able to stay healthy. and when he has been healthy, he has not been a good pitcher. So we're going to void both of those. And new budget numbers, review of goals from our owner, and he wants us to sign more who struggled for us this year, but we will look to sign him to an extension. So if we head into the salary arbitration, and pretty lean here in terms of guys that we need to look at. We're not going to offer qualifying offers to either of these guys. They're not worth it, and we're not bringing either of them back. But more, we're going to look to, even though he struggled with us, I am going to look to offer him an extension, and he's not interested right now. That's not good, so hopefully he'll be interested later. I'd like to sign him to an extension, even though he struggled this year. I'd like to sign him. Norris is an interesting case because he's struggled with injuries and kind of up and down performances, but I do want to bring him back at least for one more season to see if he can fulfill the promise that he's shown. So I'm going to offer him $5.7 million, and he's comfortable with that. So we will get Norris back, it looks like. And that's it. We don't have any other players to look at in terms of arbitration guys, and we're not going to sign these free agents back because most of the guys that we have are all automatic guys that come back next year. All these auto guys. Some of them aren't going to be on our 40-man next year, but that's why we have so few arbitration guys. So what I'm going to do is we will go ahead, and because we only have the one guy, we're just going to click forward here, and we'll see what happens with Porter in terms of his the offer that I made to him, and with Norris, and then we'll see if Moore wants to renegotiate. I'll move up here to the Gold Glove, and we'll see what we can get, and if they want to re-sign. Alright, so it looks like Norris signed. Yep. Alright, so we got Norris back, so that's good. And we'll go ahead and I'll just go to the end of the awards here. And we'll see. I seriously doubt that we're going to win a lot, if any, awards. And Porter agrees to become the bench coach, so that's good. So we got our whole personnel department in place. So I'm going to go ahead. I'll just move forward here real quick to the end of the awards, and we'll take a look at all the different awards real quick. And then I will skip forward to the beginning of free agency, and I'll kind of run you guys through what my plans are going to be for free agency and what I'm looking to do with the team, how I'm looking to have the makeup of the team be next year. So we'll look through the awards real quick. AL, we did not win any Gold Gloves this year in the AL. Top reliever was Aroldis Chapman. We had nobody finish in the top 3. Silver Slugger, Miguel Cabrera did win a Silver Slugger for us at first base, and he was our only Silver Slugger winner. AL's best rookie was Garrett Stubbs with the Houston Astros. He's a catcher. We did not have anybody finish in the top 3 there. Hinch wins top manager in the American League with the Houston Astros. And then Chris Davinsky wins the Cy Young this year. 16-4, 2.87 ERA, 178 strikeouts for the Houston Astro pitcher. Nola won the Cy Young, kind of an upset over Clayton Kershaw. Kershaw had a good year. He did miss a few starts, it looks like, with injury, but Nola had a pretty good year too, so I bet you that was a close vote. We don't actually know what the numbers are, but I bet it was a close vote. And then AL MVP was this Lourdes Gurriel Jr. He nearly won the Triple Crown this year. He just didn't quite make it in terms of average, but I think he was tops in the other 2. So massive breakout season for him. Donaldson finishes 2nd, and Gleyber Torres finishes 3rd. And the National League, it is Corey Seager winning the MVP, 311 average, 42 home runs, 98 ribbies. Harper finishes 2nd, and Addison Russell finishes 3rd. All right, so those are all the award winners. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pause the video here. I will fast forward to the beginning of free agency. I'll talk about free agency plans, and then I'll show you guys my Hall of Fame vote, and then I'll end the part 1 of the off season there, and we'll pick back up Again, probably Rule 5 draft, and also try to look for trades for those guys that I was talking about and see if we can make any moves there. So I'm going to go ahead and pause and move forward to free agency. We'll see who files, and I will see you guys then. Alright guys, so we are here at the free agent period, and a couple of interesting international free agents to look at. There's this Luis Rojas, 27-year-old relief pitcher out of Cuba. I don't particularly like the fact that he's high greed and low leader, loyalty, and intelligence, but he does look like he could be a really good relief pitcher to add to our pen. He's a left-hander. I'm going to have to look and see what, and he's got a neat nickname, Pizza. Can't go wrong with that. But I'm going to have to see what his demand, it looks like, is $3.5 million. So it's not too bad in terms of his demand. So we'll have to take a look at that. The other guy is this 25-year-old Luis Santana. He's a 5-star potential guy. And again, low loyalty and intelligence, but low greed. He's only looking for $430,000. I think this is a potential massive steal for us. A guy that could, maybe spend a year or two down in the minors, and I mean, we're not losing much if we take a chance on him. So can play multiple positions, decent, batting ratings over here, decent infield ratings. Look at some of the more advanced stuff, pretty good. He can also play a little bit of outfield, it looks like, if we needed to as well. So, looks like he could be really versatile for us. So I think he's another guy that I'm going to look to make an offer with. And then in terms of just the regular free agents, there aren't a ton of guys that kind of just strike me out in terms. They're not guys that just leap off the page at me because, again, we're not trying to spend a lot of money. There really isn't a whole lot of guys here. Jose Bautista is interesting. He'd just be a 1-year guy, but he's only looking for $1.8 million, which is really inexpensive. Garrett Cole caught my eye. $27 million is a little steep. If his price comes down, I'd be interested in looking to sign him. But as I was scrolling through the list again, here's this Luis Rojas here. There aren't a lot of young, controllable assets or guys that are in our price range that I would be, interested in maybe making deals with. I mean, Boxberger's down here, but there aren't a ton of free agents that are just leaping off the page at me. There's this 27-year-old Cuban left fielder, but we've already got a ton of outfielders as it is. So I don't know if we're going to be signing a ton of free agents. Those international guys are definitely interesting. I'll probably be looking at them. But in terms of our team itself, I mean, we're pretty well set at most of the positions moving into next year. Pentecost is our catcher. We're stuck with Cabrera at this point because we're not going to be able to move him because of his no trade clause. And I don't feel comfortable. I'll have to maybe do some more research on it, but I don't feel comfortable moving him and forcing a trade through without any sort of precedent for it. And then we've got Eves and Scope. They have second and short locked up. Third base is Shepard's there right now, but he's just holding down the fort until Vladimir Guerrero comes up. Guerrero will probably be up, maybe not next season, but definitely 2 seasons from now at the latest. He will be up and he'll be our full-time third baseman. And then this Peter Alonso will definitely be up soon. Don't really have a place for him right now, but he should be joining the Major League roster fairly soon. And then outfield is pretty well set as well between Marte and Stewart and Upton and Jones. All of those spots are pretty much locked down at this point in terms of how it's going to be handled there. So, I mean, we could always look for a few backups, but we don't really have any need. Maybe, like I said, third base is about the only one that we would be looking for anything, and we don't need a big-time player there. We don't need to be spending a lot of money. In terms of pitching-wise, we definitely could use, especially if we're able to move Zimmerman, we could use an extra arm in the rotation. I'm not sure about Turnbull being a starter either. We definitely could use a couple of arms there. The bullpen, like I said, is pretty well set for the most part, but obviously if I can get that Cuban reliever, I would do that. But otherwise, the bullpen is pretty well set, and again, we have some guys like Funkhauser who could potentially be moving up soon. We have some guys down here in AAA who could also make some moves up, and then we've got young guys coming through the system who should be arriving soon. So obviously not a ton of moves that we will be looked to be making, but I did want to real quick while we're here and while I've got you guys here real quick, I did want to offer this Luis Rojas. I did want to offer him a contract, and he doesn't want to play for Ryan Sandberg. That is a disappointment. It is what it is, but that's a little bit of a disappointment. The other one I wanted to look to sign is this Luis Santana. Offer him a deal. Minor league contract with an optional signing bonus. Yes. Only $430,000. That's not much of a risk. So we'll meet his demands, submit that offer. And then, like I said, because we can't get that one reliever, we can't get him, I will take a look here. All relievers. Like I said, there's not a lot of young relievers here. We weren't able to maybe let's see if he's more willing to. No, he doesn't want to play for Sandberg either, so that's a bit of a disappointment. We can't get guys to play for Sandberg. But Rodriguez is interesting. He's only a 3-star guy, but I'll have to take a look through here and see if there's any other relievers that we might be able to make moves with. Same thing with third baseman. What have we got with third base? The Santana guy can play third. Matt Carpenter. I mean, there's not a huge. No, there's like I said, there's no big time guys here that we're going to be looking to give contracts to. Not a lot of young guys either. So, like I said, it might be a pretty light free agency period for us, unless guys like Garrett Cole and some of the starters, some of their demands start to fall. Like Tanaka, like some of these guys that are injured, sometimes you can get them on discount. But obviously with these guys being out long term, I'm not sure how much it's worth it. So again, we'll keep an eye on these guys and we will go from there. And then I just want to finish off the episode real quick by showing you guys who I will vote for the Hall of Fame. And then I will pick you guys up for part 2 of the off season where we will do the Rule 5 draft. If there's any trades that I'm going to make, I'll show you guys the trades, and we'll just move forward until the beginning of next season, and hopefully, like I said, continue the rebuild process and keep getting closer to a point where we'll be able to start contending again. Alright, so we'll go into the Hall of Fame voting here and take a look. Abreu is an interesting guy. He's like on the fence. He's an on the fence guy for me, but let's go through for the guys that we've already voted for before. So Vladimir Guerrero, Roy Halladay, Todd Helton. Gonna vote for those guys. Gotta vote for Derek Jeter. That's a pretty obvious one. Jeff Kent. Let's see. Mike Mussina. I'm gonna vote for him. And then I'm gonna vote for Kurt Schilling. I'm gonna vote for Jim Thome. And let me go through here again real quick. Let me go back to the top and see. Alright, Abreu is like right on the edge for me. Definitely no for Beckett, no for Lance Berkman, no for PED guys. Definitely not for Adam Dunn. No, not Giambi. Konerko, no. Konerko's close, but I just don't think I can vote for him. Cliff Lee, not enough wins. Oswalt, no. Pettit, I can't vote for Pettit because PED issues there. Brian Roberts. Santana's interesting because he had a really high peak, but he didn't have a really long, sustained career. Soriano, no. I can't vote for Soriano. No. I think this is all I'm going to vote for. I think these are the guy. I think it's going to be an 8-player ballot this year. Like I said, Abreu is close, but I think I'm going to hold off on him since it's his first time on the ballot. So it's going to be an 8-player ballot this year. I'm going to go ahead and submit that. There we go. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and I'll end the episode here, guys, and I will pick up with you guys at part 2 of the off season. It'll either be at the Rule 5 draft or maybe during the winter meetings or something if I manage to find a trade that interests me. If that's the case, I will cut in there and I'll show you guys what's going on there. So, as always, feel free to like and subscribe. Comments and feedback are always welcome. And I want to thank you guys for watching, and I will see you guys for episode 14, which will be the 2019 off season part 2.